Okay, so we just made it back from CJ's feeding therapy. Right now, he attends feeding therapy due to his issues with food. He's a very picky eater. We don't know whether it's sensory related, if it's behavioral, or if there are any other reasons why he's so picky. He started attending this feeding therapy probably about a couple of months ago, and we go once a week for 1 hour. So today we tried chicken nuggets, baked chicken, sliced cheese, string cheese. Those were the items we tried today. And he was successful in eating little pieces of baked chicken and some sliced cheese. Okay, but I want to kind of do a reverse to actually give an account of how this journey started with the feeding issues. So, CJ, when he was in the hospital, when he was first born, he stayed in the hospital for 2.5 months. Part of the reasons were his medical issues, but also during the time that he was there, they found out that he had trouble holding down food, and on top of that, he wasn't having bowel movements. So after some biopsies and some other, lab work and things like that, and examinations, they found out that he had something called Hirschsprung's disease. And so it impacts the intestines and basically like the nerve endings and things that help you push down all the food and waste from your body. He did not have those nerve endings, so he couldn't have bowel movements. So at 2.5 months, he had surgery. They warned us that there was a possibility that he would need a colostomy bag. It depended upon how much of the intestine they had to take out. But luckily, they didn't have to take out a lot, so he did not have to have a colostomy bag when he was 2.5 months. But in the process, we tried, when we brought him home finally, we tried a whole slew of different formulas. And all the time, he would have problems where he would just throw up, and it was like projectile vomiting. So it was everywhere, and he wouldn't hold down food. And actually, when we first took him home, which was against doctor's advice because he was not feeding from a bottle. I wanted to breastfeed, but that didn't happen because he was hospitalized for too long. So we tried bottle feeding, and he really wasn't taking that. But me and my mom, we were, being the God-fearing people we are, and really tapping into our faith, we knew that the transition home and a home environment may stimulate and progress his development. So we said we're going to take him home. We're going to try a bottle. If he does not take it, then we'll bring him back to the hospital. So that's what we did, against medical advice, but we did it. And sure enough, my mom took him back in the room, worked with him with the bottle, and he took the bottle. But in him taking that bottle, like I said, we had to go through different formulas, and it was really trial and error. And we, it was just a battle. We tried to even do table food a little bit earlier, just to see if that would kind of work. So baby food, not just regular food that we eat on a day-to-day basis. But we just found over the months and over the years, he had problems gaining weight. And that was because he was really not taking in enough food. So we tried dietitians and, nutritionists, all those things that you try. They even tried giving him basically just liquid fat, okay, in this food that we have to stir up. And it wasn't the best thing because cholesterol wise it would raise those levels, but it was to get weight on him. So by the time he was a year old, he was a hefty size. He looked really good. But you can't use the liquid fat for that long. So once we kind of withdrew that from his diet, once again he started losing weight. Okay, and we had a lot of occupational therapy, and we actually, I think during the course up until now, we've gone through different types of feeding therapy 4 different occasions, okay, on 4 different occasions. And they all have bared very minimal results. Okay, so for the past, I would say, really majority of his life, probably the last 10 years, and he's only 11 years old, he's had the Gerber rice cereal, okay? And it has to be rice cereal. It cannot be the oatmeal cereal or anything like that. So we use the Gerber rice cereal, and we also use, we have to mix it with baby food, and he's 11 years old, once again. So we get the regular baby food that you would give your infant, we mix that into the cereal, and he has that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So at this point now that he's 11 years old, we saw a new GI doctor, gastroenterologist, and they told us that, first of all, he wasn't where he should be as far as his weight. You know, he wasn't where he should be. Down syndrome children, they go according to a different growth chart than typical children. But even for the chart for Down syndrome kids, he was still on the small end. So he's 11 years old. He was weighing 60 pounds. And when we would go to appointments, it was like he would lose a pound. Maybe we were lucky and he gained a pound. But there was not much progress. So our gastroenterologist said, look here, you know, I have to give it to you straight. If he does not gain weight, we're going to have to look into a G-tube. That way, at least we can give him all the nutrients that he needs. And while, you know, we do that, you can still do table food and try, but at least the pressure won't really be there where you're like, oh my goodness, you have to eat, you have to eat, you have to eat in order to survive. No, we'll just go ahead and do the gavage feeding through the G-tube, and then you can supplement with table food, and maybe eventually we can transition back to table food. So, of course, as a mom, you know, you don't want to see that. I think I could have dealt with a G-tube if he was younger, if he was still a baby. And, you know, that would have worked out better for me mentally and emotionally. But for him to be 11-year-old and now have to go through a major surgery and have to kind of revert back to the G-tube was very disheartening. But at the same time, you have to do what you have to do. I knew it was his health that depended on it, and actually his life depended on it, because at this point, if he got sick and he didn't have the nutrients and he wasn't at the weight he was supposed to be at, there was the likelihood of issues like pneumonia and things like that, and he wouldn't be able to recover from that. You know, if he's had pneumonia twice, so, you know, if he was not receiving the nutrients that he needed, he could potentially die because of him being 60 pounds. So we had to, you know, balance all that and said, okay, well, if there's no progress made in the area of feeding, we will have to go ahead and revert to the G-tube. So this is what the doctor set up. She said, look here, I'm going to give him, at first she gave us, I think, 3 months, and we're going to try feeding therapy. If feeding therapy does not bear any results, and we're going to do some additional exams, so we did an endoscopy, we did that, and she also, you know, just checked for acid reflux with that and see if anything's going on. If nothing really works and he's still having the same issues, G-tube it is. So after endoscopy, we didn't see anything major, just a little acid reflux. So we took care of that. We also did the tonsils because they were really swollen, and so they thought maybe it's an issue of him swallowing food. Maybe he's having problems, so that's why he has an adverse reaction to the food. Took the tonsils out. Still very picky eater. Gerber cereal, baby food. So at that point, we went back to the GI doctor, and she said, okay, let's try this feeding therapy some more. You know, let's give it some more time. So we have seen him make a little progress in trying different foods. And actually, with our last visit to the gastroenterologist, he had gained 5 pounds. So he's 67 pounds now. So with that progress, she's willing to give it another 6 months, and we're going to see if there's progress in terms of, you know, his feeding and his weight gain. They checked his lab work. All the blood tests were normal, so nutrient-wise, he's fine. So, you know, we're happy to report that although he's not really taking a whole bunch of new table foods, at least on the scale with weight and with the nutrients, he's healthy, you know, so that's a blessing there. But it's a still day-to-day battle, you know, and so we've tried a lot of things as far as, you know, him sitting at the table with everyone, and seeing us eat food, and we're saying yum, 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 trying to encourage him, and he still is like, no, give me cereal. But then you'll have those days where, we'll be sitting in the living room, and he goes back to the table because I've left maybe the kids' plates on the table, and he'll go back and eat his brother and his sister's food totally, entirely, without, us even realizing why he's done it. Just day in and day out, it's a different day, a different experience. There's no consistency. But as a parent, you worry. You worry about, his weight gain. You worry about just his life skills. You want him, he has so many different challenges that you want him to at least be able to sit down to a regular meal, and enjoy, because we can see him certain days where he's just tired of having cereal, but it's what he's used to. It's kind of like a systemized thing. It's a systematic thing where, hey, I'm used to cereal. That's what I'm going to do. As much as I don't like it, it's just what I'm used to. So that's what he does, So it's a constant battle. It's hard to find babysitters, because another thing with the eating is that even with the Gerber cereal, it has to be the right texture. And it has to be the same texture every single time. He used to be stuck on the ideal of mommy has to fix my cereal and no one else can. Or either mommy and grandma need to fix my cereal and no one else can. So then he wouldn't eat when somebody else would fix it for him. Or they wouldn't make it the right texture, so he wouldn't sit there and eat it. Or it wasn't the right balance between the rice cereal and the baby food. The proportions weren't right. So he was like, no. I don't, I'm not going to have it. So that's been the battle even with babysitting. People are like, oh, I'll watch him. But we have to go through the routine of trying to show everyone how to fix the cereal. And then, a lot of times if we do have a babysitter and he doesn't eat, they get really worried. And then it heightens your worry, even though that's what he usually does. It still has you stressed out now because they're worried, And so it has to be right consistency. Also, we've expanded on this now, but it had to be same bowl, same spoon. Okay, but now we've kind of broadened it. That's what we're working on with feeding therapy as well. So he will take different bowls and spoons now. But it was really that particular, and that was kind of one of the triggers, which we'll have another video about how I got the diagnosis of autism and how I knew as a parent that he had autism. Because it was because of me that they discovered he had autism. But it was because that was, the systematic thing with the food and needing the same bowl and the same spoon. And actually, you had to buy the same sippy cup. One thing that's happened recently is, Gerber makes this sippy cup. And it's a particular style with a particular spout. And so there's been times where we've left it at daycare and, oh my gosh, that was the only cup we had. So now he won't drink for the rest of the night until we get that cup back. So I went and I had to purchase additional cups that were the same style, sippy cup. Well, lo and behold, they stopped making this cup. They've actually upgraded it to a different style. So we couldn't find it. We went to all kind of CVS stores and Walgreens, Rite Aid, Ralph's, Target, Walmart. No one had the cup. So we had to place an order through Amazon to find these cups. And I had to buy a whole slew of these Gerber cups because this is the only one he will drink from. So it is really a challenge with him. He gives you a run for your money, okay? So, that's something else we're going to have to tackle, because if Gerber stops making this cup or somebody runs out of their last supply of these Gerber cups, CJ won't drink. I mean, he literally, that's what we found out. Because at first, therapists will say, wait it out. He's going to get hungry. Don't feed him the cereal. And you know what? When you present him with that table food, he's going to eat it because, he's going to be hungry. Not CJ. CJ will wait it out until you go ahead and bow down to him and provide him what he wants. Okay? He's not going to give in. So it's not based on that logic or that, strategy with him. So same with liquids. If you don't have that cup, I don't care how many hours or days go by, he will not drink. So that leaves us in a very peculiar situation. And, so you have to plan ahead. You have to make sure you have 5 cups of the same style on hand. And so to this day, I need to place another order for cups because no telling if we're going to run into a problem with finding that. So these are some challenges that parents have when they are raising kids with special needs. And really, this really particular way of eating where it has to be the same food, same brand, same texture, that kind of thing really is consistent with autism. Okay, so so we have to deal with the balance. We have a physical problem with the Hirschsprungs. We have that, but now we're over that part. Now we have to deal with a more of a autism issue, whether it is behavioral, sensory, or whatever you may have. We have to figure that out, and that's what we're trying to determine. So that is our journey as far as feeding issues. I'll probably think of some other things on this topic, so you might get a part 2 of this video. But that's the trials that we go through with just the day-to-day eating. We take for granted. We can eat whatever we want. But there are kids out there and adults who struggle with just what they're going to eat, whether their body has an adverse reaction to it just because of behavior things, or whether it's really a sensory texture thing of I only want soft foods, which is CJ, only wants soft foods, versus, crunchy foods or things like that. So never take for granted just the day-to-day normal things like eating. Forget the fact that, oh, thank God I have money for food to eat. Thank God that I can actually just sit there and enjoy my meal with not too many parameters, that's truly a blessing. So with that, I will see you later. I think probably the next video I will do is about CJ and being nonverbal, because CJ wasn't always nonverbal. So stay tuned till next time.